Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now by Jack Sandarelli. Jack Sandarelli. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it, Jack Sandarelli. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like Brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogs. Well, listening to episode number 245 of this amazing show. My entire crew is here with this week. DeClaude's here.
Howdy.
Days.
Hey.
Punch.
Hey guys.
And last and always least, Chira Jaden.
Hi.
Chira, I'm going
Oh,
back to
you
it.
replaced Sotir as like the last and always least?
No, I was the last, like when, God, this, I don't want to get into this story in depth, but when we started bringing me on the show, Adam said he was always going to bring me on and say my name last, and then he forgot, and then he remembered like last week. So we're back to this a year and a half later.
Yeah, I thought there was a period of time where Sotir was last.
Sotir was always last, except for the 2-man shows, and it was like a big deal.
Right, yeah, because
I've been watching this podcast way too long.
Yeah, because there was like two-man shows with Sotir, and I can remember freaking out, but then Sotir just carried the show, and I was like, all right, great episode, guys.
No worries. Sotir will just talk for an hour.
You know what? Speaking of talking for an hour, there's something else we have to fill your ear holes for an hour a week, and that's the 4 Wards podcast that's finally been released at 4wards.trinityforcepodcast.com. So,
At last.
For those the uninitiated out there, this is a League of Legends podcast for the uninitiated. So if you are brand new to the Trinity Force proper, but we have been starting to say terms that you might not understand, like orb walking or rotations or objective control, and there's these terms that we've been using for a really long time that people may not understand. And while you can go look this up in a glossary, we were looking for a way that we could get you initiated into the proper over a long period of time, while helping you get better at the game through just through topics that we can't talk about, because I don't want to say they're too beginner or too new, but they're just, we assume that you have a level of understanding of the game when you come to the proper. And 4 Wards just assumes you know everything or nothing. They're just that general podcast to help you get really started. So guys, go check those guys out on iTunes. It's Azarishan, Doomspikeinator, Frostbite, and Haberdashing. They are all putting that together. They've already released 3 episodes, and it's on iTunes and Stitcher for you to check out.
Yeah, I already listened to the first 2. It's good stuff. Even if you're not new and you just you need an extra podcast fix from the T-Force network, check it out. They do a good job.
So yeah, that is 5 hours of podcasts a week from the Trinity Force network right now. So you've got 2 propers, you've got the AzLOL, you've got the T-Force LCS rundown, and of course you have the 4 Worlds podcast. So you should be able to get to and from work every single day with the Trinity Force network. And that's
What more could you ask for? What else going to listen to, really? Radio sucks.
It
does. It'll save you money, too. You don't have to pay for that satellite radio anymore.
Well, to be fair, the amount of commercials we usually do at the start of the show is probably more than what the normal radio does.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because they have
Our commercials are less annoying.
They have to do ad breaks all the time. What are you talking about?
Well, other than that, guys, this weekend, this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Punch, Days, Chira, and myself will all be taking part in the Battle Arena Smackdown Edition. Actually, I'm more of like a floater, just in case somebody drops out. We've already had one person who's unfortunately unable to make it, so Chira is jumping in. Do join us at twitch.tv/T-Force Podcast, Battle Arena Smackdown Edition. We have accepted all donations. The sign-up sheet has already been taken care of. Everybody is ready to go. We've got 30 people total taking place in this. We have 2 games, and if you are in Game 1 or Game 2, you're going to play 2 games that night. So and everyone should already have the email. If you don't, it's coming to your inbox very shortly. You should know what you're doing. All these guys know. Days, she's playing support in 1 game, and Punch is playing support in Game 1. Punch is Game 1, Days is Game 2, right? Or
I'm playing support.
No, I'm 1.
What?
Okay.
Group Punch is like,
B.
wait, I'm playing support?
This
What?
is news to me. I better check this email out again.
Sorry, you're playing 80 carry in Group B then, right?
Oh, okay.
And then
Yeah, I'm in
Days.
Group 1 as support.
Right, that's it. Yes, I specifically kept them apart by the way, so that they couldn't scream at each other.
How are we supposed to dominate people who are apart?
Come on, let us bring back our Kate Sona lane.
I'm sure that the people really want to play against this really heavy poke lane and like get
Why not?
That sounds awful. So if you guys aren't sure what Battle Arena Smackdown Edition is where we had 10 bronze and silvers. I think there's 1 gold actually. Everyone else is bronze and silver. They donated at least a minimum of $5 to get smacked down by platinum and diamonds in a game, and then each of those bronze and silvers have a platinum and diamond watching them and playing against them, taking notes and recording the game, and then that bronze or silver will get that game and those notes after it's all said and done, and they'll talk with the person in TeamSpeak, and they'll hopefully learn something from that night of playing.
Open minds, everybody.
Mm-hmm. And everybody has already been told that you are to take this as seriously as you possibly can. You're taking it as serious as solo queue. You're not sitting in TeamSpeak while you do it. But so there's hopefully there's no troll picks, but in the way this game and the meta has evolved, where we saw Urgot and all these other crazy picks this last week in the LCS, who God knows what the meta is anymore at this point.
Nobody knows.
It's very
exciting. Just tanks. There needs to be multiple tanks on the team.
Right. Hopefully we see a protect the punch.
See, you say that, and then you immediately pick Kog'Maw. It's gonna be great.
Kog'Maw.
Not solo queue. I'm not.
We've seen your solo queue, Punch. It kind of goes on and on and on. Punch can't win before 40 minutes, just so you guys know. In solo queue, he
plays Ezreal.
No, he plays Tristana, and he doesn't know how to. He gets to like the 30-minute mark when he starts ramping up, and that's what he's taking care of. But before that, all he does is play safe and farm. Just seriously, go watch a Punch.
Yeah,
game.
but
It's
then
hilarious.
you can't.
That's totally not true.
Then you can't beat him after that point. Then he becomes this terror who 1v5s everybody. So worth.
I have to play from behind if my team is sucking. All right, I can't help that.
Episode
God,
239.
Punch
More
just
we talk
blame
about
your
this.
bad team.
Right?
Well, he included himself in that team.
One last announcement before we move on. Like I said last week, we're going to add a little bit extra time to this episode and probably a little bit extra time to Wednesday to make up for it all, since we did start a little late tonight. And that's the podcast awards are done and over with. Thank you for everybody who voted for us throughout that stint. We are meeting on April 14th, if I remember correctly. Let me pull up the calendar here. Yes, that's April 14th. That is a Tuesday night. We are meeting that night. The official time and announcement will be on the subreddit, T-Force Network. We will be getting together in a live stream to have a drinking party and hopefully win a podcast award this year.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
We
awesome.
can do it.
that would be.
And if not,
yeah.
we'll be drinking. So it's a
It'll
win-win.
still be a good
Either
time.
way, we'll be celebrating whether it be a win or a loss.
Well, we're
That's
always
right.
celebrating something. So thank you guys if you voted for the podcast. Remember that vote for the podcast was not just a vote for the Trinity Force proper, as it was a vote for the network. You were voting for every show that is out there, the Oz LOL guys, the T-Force LCS Rundown guys, the 4 Ward guys. You're voting for the WoW guys, and then, any eventual podcasts. So you are not just voting for the primary podcast. It's just I couldn't put T-Force Network down because you had to have a podcast URL. So let's go move on. Today we are going to do a listener question mailbag episode where we're going to try to get to as many of them as we can, because the questions that we need to get to today are probably 2 months old at this point. And yeah, so we're going to jump right into this. Kendrick wrote in. He says, can you guys please discuss proper wave management? I feel like this is a skill that is very important, but I'm not sure how I've heard you discuss it. Can you please discuss the basics of how to freeze a lane, how to set up a lane to push when you should, and when you should push your lane? I feel like a lot of players don't even think about wave management, and having understanding of these things could help a lot of people. Thank you very much. So, anybody?
I feel like this is so much better done if you can demonstrate. Like, there's so many specifics that go into this. It's really hard to talk about. But it is really important. It's a really important strategy to know. I think that when it's pushing towards you, if you're trying to freeze it in front of your tower, and I could be wrong, I think that you need to have 3 to 4 more minions, and the enemy needs to have 3 to 4 more minions than you have to keep it stacked in front of your tower properly. I think. I could be wrong. Punch probably knows a lot better than I do because I support.
Not so much. I don't know the exact number. I do know I know what you're talking about. That is keeping the wave right outside of your tower, which is the concept of freezing the wave. And that's basically the safest spot for you to farm, because you've got your tower to fall back to, and you don't have a risk of the lane getting away from you because the creeps are just staying in one spot. And if they get into your tower range, then that resets the wave, and your minion's gonna go back to the middle of the wave, or middle of the lane, and then you can put yourself at risk again by going that far out. And usually you're freezing the lane when you're behind, or if the enemy can actually just jump on you and kill you without the protection of your tower, or if you're afraid of the jungler coming and killing you.
Yeah,
not only that, but it also helps you if you are trying to zone out the enemy. If you get really far ahead, then you freeze it there and they can't extend too far because they get ganked, or you can just poke them out. And so that's a really dangerous place for them to be. It's really popular in top lane. I think more so in any other lane. In top lane, you really want to know where to freeze against which champions. Some you want to shove under tower because they can't farm. Some you want to freeze near your tower because they can't harass you under tower. There's a lot of specifics that goes into that, actually.
Freezing isn't necessarily something you need to do when you're behind as well. One of the most effective things to do if you're ridiculously ahead and they can't fight you at all is to keep the lane slowly moving towards your turret and just zone the shit out of them so they can't get any minions at all. Kind of a throwback to a past game where I got the lane against Adam when he was on his hack room kick. I was playing Jax into him, and I was able to just sit on the other side of my wave and kind of keep him from like farming anything at all. And he basically had to go other places to make up for farm that he was losing. So there are a lot of situations where you can, I guess, aggressively keep a wave pushing towards you. That way you can keep them from getting any money or even experience out of it, depending on how much you can zone them. So like it's really dependent on kind of how the lane is going in general. And then you can also push and freeze lanes. Like as a jungler, it can be huge too, because say the enemy laner kills your mid laner and the wave's pushing up against the turret and all that money would go to waste. If you kill that wave and you can push it to the turret before the enemy mid laner can get back there, you can reset the wave for them as well. So it actually helps out your mid laner. So this isn't just for a single person lane. Other lanes can come and influence those waves as well.
And in order to initiate your lane getting pushed against you, and this is kind of where it'd be easier to demonstrate as opposed to talking it out, but I'll try. You kind of want to stay ahead of your creep wave as they're meeting, right? And you want to take the initial aggro of the enemy creep wave and move to the side so that their creep wave kind of fans out and they get a better surface area against yours, so that they get more hits on they get more auto attacks off on your minions, and your minions would die faster, basically, that way. You also want to let the enemy ranged minions kind of build up, because that helps push too. Right. And that's the same concept you're going to use when you're pushing against the enemy team, or the enemy. Yes, when you're pushing onto the enemy turret, is you want to take out their ranged minions first, because they're the ones doing the damage. And once you kill those, you can pretty much leave the melee minions, and then your wave will build up over time and become this huge ball of creeps that will eventually push into their tower.
So you stole the words out of my mouth. Before we go on, Chira, turn your mic down about 10 for me.
Gotcha.
5 to 10. That's how you set up a slow push. So I know we're talking about in lane, but let's say it's the middle of the game. You want to set up. Do you guys remember that infamous Monty slow push that he talked about? I think he was probably the first personality to really talk about it on air. And that's what it is. You need to kill. If you want to start a slow push in the lane, and it doesn't matter how many minions are there, you need to kill and leave 3 of the enemy minions up with your caster minions available, because that will slowly start to build the wave, because the melee minions take more damage than the caster minions do, but the caster minions do more damage than the front line minions do. So by taking out those 3 in the back and leaving the 3 in the front, the minion wave slowly starts to stack up over time, and then it starts to slow push hard. So if you've ever seen those big giant waves getting pushed down, especially if it's somebody like Frank the Tank following along with it, you can mow down a tower with just minions and Frank the Tank. He doesn't need to be in there, but he helps quite a bit.
And speaking of Frank the Tank, if you want to go ahead, Daze.
I was going to say the best time to start a slow push is if you're going to have to leave lane to get an objective. So if you know that Baron is going to be contested, then you want to start a slow push bot about 1.5 to 2 minutes before you go to get Baron, because either someone's going to have to respond to it, or they're going to be able to get a tower. You'll be able to get a tower out of it. But either way, you're pressuring them, so they have to make a decision, and you can't have one of those like drawn out Baron dances where everyone just kind of stands around. But yeah, that's one of the best times to get a slow push started, is if you know where you're going to be about 2 minutes in the future. On the other side of the map, you want to start a slow push somewhere.
So speaking of Frank the Tank.
Yeah, sorry. One thing that Urtai and I used to do when we would lane swap, and this has to do with actually pushing in the wave during laning phase as opposed to the slow push. we would zone the top laner until the cannon minion wave, and that's when we would push. And I feel like that's kind of the best time to actually get a push going is when your cannon minion wave is coming. That's when you want to start auto-attacking the enemy creeps, so that way by the time you want to time it so that the cannon minion wave arrives just as your creeps are finishing off theirs. So you got kind of like a wave and a half with a cannon minion. And that's a pretty good push in the turret.
Yeah.
Especially because those cannon minions soak up so much damage from turrets.
And well, they're out of range of turrets, the cannon minions.
With the Baron.
Yeah,
only with Baron.
Right.
And you have to be standing there with them.
Yeah, without it, they still soak up like 6 hits. That's huge when you have a bunch of other minions smacking the shit out of a tower.
The other thing is be careful. I see a lot of people in lower elos try to freeze a lane early levels by tanking their minion aggro, and they will lose a good like third to half of their health just trying to get their minions. It's better. It's 100% better to try to learn how to CS under tower, so that if it gets pushed in your tower, it's not the end of the world. But if you lose half of your HP or a third of your HP to minions just because you're trying to freeze it, it essentially nullifies that freeze, because then the enemy can harass you down and you won't be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, there is a situation to be brought up here about being support, though, and helping to keep the lane frozen by holding the minion wave or keeping the minion wave coming. You'll find a situation if you're playing support of bottom lane where the enemy has back, there's a wave coming, but there's already a wave at the tower, and there is some merit as a support if you have potions and hopefully a shield as well, like somebody like Thresh, where you can stop that enemy wave from walking all the way into the turret, and like if the turret is here, 15 Teemos away is the support standing there holding that wave, so that now the 2 waves are hitting in the middle of the lane and resetting, essentially. And there is some merit to understanding how to manipulate a wave as a support in that sense as well.
And you can do sort of like Punch was saying earlier about when the minions are coming and you want to grab that aggro. You do the same thing as a support, and you can actually drag them a little bit towards like the side of the lane, and you actually don't take as much damage because you're not standing, the melees aren't standing on top of you, so you're actually only taking the damage from the range creep, and that helps a lot. And yeah, having potions or a shield is really, really important in those situations. And the other thing you can do, if you can't stop it from getting there, one of the best things that you can do is auto the back line of the minions once the range minions, and that will help your AD carry to farm them. But yeah, you can definitely pull them into like away from the tower a little bit. Just make sure you're not doing it to like a huge, if they have a slow push started and there's like 15 minions coming at you, don't do it then. You have to use common sense with it, and you have to practice it, because sometimes you'll be like, okay, that was a little too much damage that I took, and then you'll know for the next time. And then the other thing that's important as a support, if your AD carry is trying to freeze a lane, if you're both in lane, is that you have to realize that every time you auto someone, you actually unfreeze a lane, because you're going to draw minion aggro away.
Right.
So you need to make sure, one, that the minions settle, which means that they find a target and they're actually they have aggro on another minion. You want to make sure they do that before you start attacking somebody, and you want to abuse the bushes. So you want to pop out, attack, and pop back in, and you actually will drop that minion aggro, and you won't unfreeze the lane for your AD carry. And that way you can still zone out people. If you're ahead and you want to be poking while you're freezing, then that's the best way to do it, so that you don't pull the minion aggro onto you.
And to kind of go full circle just a little bit, when you were talking about tanking the creeps in order to freeze the lane, I think that goes back to the point you're trying to make right off the bat, which is the number of creeps that they need to have over yours, because that's the number that you can actually pretty much safely tank.
I'm
3 or 4 ranged creeps, or
I'm 90% sure that it's 3 or 4. And it depends how effective you are at last hitting, because that also requires you to get your minions the enemy minions, before you CS them. You have to get them down to like the very least possible HP before you CS them. So the number does vary a little bit, and it's something that you can practice. You can actually practice that really easily in custom games while you're practicing your CS. So that's a really good place to try it and practice it.
Just be don't default to always freezing the lane. You need to know when to push it as well, when to bully it into the enemy turret. For example, if Dragon's becoming a contest, if you need to roam as a mid laner, or if your jungler is standing by ready to gank and he wants to duck into the lane bush behind you, and you got that one melee minion, you're sitting there waiting for it to get low enough so you can last hit. The jungler's wasting time sitting waiting for that melee minion to die so he can get in there without being seen. So just be aware of what's around you as well, and use that when managing the waves.
Same with top lane and teleport ganks. When I was first playing top lane and just randomly using teleport, there were a few times where I teleported where the lane was pushing against me, and I would just lose a tower, and I get really frustrated, like, every time I teleport away, my tower dies. And I realized, oh yeah, I should probably push the lane first.
Yep.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, you should always have an understanding of where your minion wave is at, what you should be doing with it. Something that I have been noticing between top and mid, really this is solo lanes, is understanding how to use your wave to get level 2 and 3, but realize that if you push hard and you get 2 before them, and if you can push by killing one extra minion than the enemy, that gives you level 2 right before they get it. You have to watch you have to watch your minions' health to get that level 2 first, or that level 3. But realize that if you don't get that kill when you're 2 or 3, and that's what you're pushing really hard to get to do, that they are going to hit level 4 before you hit 3, because they're going to have more minions coming at them than you are going to have coming at you. So by you hitting 2 or 3, you're giving up your 4 and 5, essentially. So that's something to realize. And then 6 becomes a battle of who can, how is the wave pushing, how is the wave handling, who's got the better power spikes here and there. So that's something to keep in mind in solo lanes, is levels have a big advantage, and so you need to risk reward. It's risk reward at that point.
In bottom lane too, ideally you want to get level 2 by 1 minion. You want to just barely beat them to that level 2, because they'll immediately, either you can punish them or they'll immediately back off, and they'll back off far enough that if you clear like 3 minions faster than them, then it will push into tower and they'll get all that XP anyway. If you clear and you get that level 2 1 minion before they do, then you can actually zone them out of a couple minions, and that's a big deal because that does add up. So you want to make sure that you don't shove too hard and then they get the XP anyway, and they're too far under tower for you to really do anything to them.
I see too many people come into bottom lane and have poor wave management skills. They'll listen to something like us that says, you need to hit level 2 before the enemy, and they just come there as Jinx and start rocketing the back wave and killing the 3 minions right away. You hit level 2, but you can't attack them. Because it's in zone C, right outside the turret.
Too close to the turret.
Especially you do it with like a Leona in your lane, and then the Leona can't do anything at that point because otherwise she'd be diving tower. And sometimes people will do that. They'll get level 2 and then they'll dive the tower. So yeah, just try to aim for getting it like that one minion before they do. And all that is just practice and watching your minions XP and things like that. There's a lot of time. I don't think people pay enough attention to minions in general. They're really, really important in this game. Like when you go to trade, you should know how many minions you have versus they do. If you go to ward as a support, you should know that you don't go ward when your ADC is killing either melees or cannon minions, because they give you more XP. You'll get way behind if you go ward too deep while they're doing that. Losing towers like Punch was talking about with TP. Like there's a lot of situations where you really should pay a lot of attention to minions. They're a much more integral part of the game than people realize.
Yes, especially the cannon minion. I see a lot of people give up the cannon minion. That thing's worth 48 gold.
Oh yeah,
it's a chunk of gold that you're missing out on. It's not the old days where it used to be worth 12 like everything else. It's
oh yeah, I use the cannon minion, my own cannon minion, as when I play Braum all the time. I will W and E in front of it when they're about to last hit it, let the minions finish it off while I hold the shield.
Too. It becomes a theme in bot lane once you start paying attention to minions, and you can do it. You can do it regardless. Like it's really fun on Braum because there's no way that they can get to it, but you can do it with other champions too. Like everyone's going to want that cannon minion, and it's a win-win situation. Either they're going to back off and they're not going to get it, or if you have a range support and you poke them when they're going to get it, like that's a lot of damage because people zone in so much on that cannon that, I mean, if they know that it's important, they'll just zone on that, and they will take an insane amount of poke just trying to get that cannon.
Just to get it.
Right.
Especially
so it's kind of like
support.
Right, exactly. And then freaking Tarek will walk out with like a quarter health because he had to get that minion. And it's like an extreme, and you have to know, like, if you watch pro players play, they never want to give up a CS, and then all of a sudden you'll see them give up one, and it's like, okay, why did they do that? Like, did they just miss it? No, they know that if they went in to take that they were going to take too much harass and that it wasn't worth it. So there is a value to your health, like attached to it, a gold value, and you have to determine whether or not that one cannon minion is worth it, or a melee or a caster or whatever. And if you can harass and punish your enemy for getting that cannon, then by all means, it's great, and it's a good feeling too when they miss it.
Yep. So when you're managing the waves, use the health of your minions and their lust for CS as a way to as an opening to trade. It's just a great way to predict
your minions' health.
And you can predict skill shots that way too.
It's really hard as somebody who's coming in this game and learning it, even at an intermediate level, that to pay attention to your own minions' health along with the enemy minions. But if you come from a Dota background, you're probably used to it because there's a lot of
because you deny,
because you have to pay attention to all the minions.
Because there's creep denying as well as creep last hitting. So if you're from Dota, you understand it. In League, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need to watch my minions' health. Well, while it may not be as important, it's still very important to watch your own minions' health and use those.
Cyan is so good at that because, you want to kill this minion? Here, take him. I'll throw him right in your face. He's all yours. I'll make it easy for you.
Like other people said in the beginning, this would be much better if we could have a video about it, and it's something that I would like to, kind of like a teaser. We are working on something. I think Chira and I are going to get together at some point this week and go over some VODs that I have, because somebody a couple weeks ago actually suggested that we start learning each other's roles and then post the videos of each other's roles, and then I just decided I wanted to pick up jungle. I think I mentioned that before, so I'm gonna make Chira explain to me how to play jungle based on my really shitty comments.
Adam's getting serious about it when he texts me throughout the day telling me about his jungle games, and I was like, I want a VOD of me losing, and I just didn't lose yesterday, so it's like, okay.
I wasn't trying to be like that, like I'm so good at it. I was like, everyone else carried me.
Adam, that's all you ever do is try to tell everyone how good you are.
How many of those Cho'Gath ruptures have you hit?
Do you remember that night I played Cho'Gath and I actually hit a goddamn good
it doesn't matter if he's hitting ruptures on Cho'Gath when he just immediately R's them every time they're less than 100 health to take the kill away from everybody else. So
it doesn't matter what I do because I'm playing Leona jungle tonight and Punch is playing ADC.
Oh dear.
Can't wait.
I'm playing Protect the Punch as Leona ADC.
I have a feeling I'm not
going to do
wait,
support?
Leona ADC?
I mean Leona jungle, sorry. The 10% beer. What do you want from me?
Yeah, play some Leona Jarvan.
Oh my god, yes, I love kill lane. I love that kill lane.
It's a good lane.
Speaking of Leona Jarvan, since we're off topic anyway, I had a ranked game where I had a Jarvan jungle and I was Leona, and the team fights would go terribly for us. We would get our butts kicked, but it would be down to me and Jarvan left because they targeted appropriately and we couldn't protect our softies. But then we'd clean them up. We'd destroy because they had low enough health, and then with the stuns and Jarvan's insane damage on his Q and everything, we would just run around duo and clean them up and then get an objective, and then they'd do it again, and then it'd be down to Leo and Jarvan, and we'd run and clean them up. It's a great combo, those two. They have hidden power. It's pretty sweet.
It's actually a really strong kill lane, but
that's the original kill lane.
Even if it's not a lane.
It's crazy.
A picture of a goose, baby. Atlanta, episode 11 of the Trinity Force podcast. We had Atlanta on from a picture of a goose. If you want to hear something crazy, go watch that because that's 2012.
That's a long time ago.
All right, let's move on to the next question here. James writes in, and this question that I'm about to read, if I remember it correctly, is a question that I'm going to forward onto the forward. So you guys know, as well as we're talking about this, if you have if you have some questions that we feel are better suited for forwards, we will send them to them, and they will email you back and tell you at what time they answered the question at as well. It won't happen to every question, but there will be some, I think I got one today. What are the best champions in the game right now? Well, I could answer that, and it's a much harder question to answer than what are the best. It's why are they the best. Mm-hmm. Remember that. Hi, T-Force proper, the one and true T-Force. I have been level 30 for a while now. I only have about 250 wins out of 350 games. Just a rough guess. I really want to start playing ranked, but within 2 ranked games, I've seen more flamers than my whole time playing League of Legends. Chira, do you remember our conversation about this the other day?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No. About the pros and stuff. Remember that whole conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. People saying stuff like you should have at least 500 wins before you even think about going in the rank, followed by more flaming. Is there any truth on that, or any advice of pre-requirements I should have before I jump into playing ranked?
And you said you're going to forward this one on to forwards?
This would be something I would probably normally forward on to forwards, but we're going to answer it here on the podcast since we have been doing a lot of the psychology of ranked since episode 239.
Well, the first piece I have from this is the flamers, ignore them. Mute them, ignore them. Don't worry about the flamers. They'll put you on tilt. And you're already in that game when they're flaming you. So
and
you're not going to dodge and lose LP.
Ignore them just due to the fact that if they say something at all flamey towards you, it's probably way better off if you just don't read it anyway, rather than like you're playing, you screwed something up, somebody starts to talk smack, and then you see it and you're thinking about that, you're not focusing what's going on. Regardless if you like respond, react, whatever to whatever they're saying, sometimes it's better to just not know what's being said. Because if it's not helping you win the game, because realistically if somebody's just talking shit to you that's not helping you win the game, it's not worth even thinking about or even knowing that it's there.
We've talked about this exact thing over the last couple episodes. Go ahead, Dace.
I would 100% advocate just going into game and automatically muting people. Like, the only prerequisite to playing ranked, I would say, is knowing how to tab and mute people. Because it is 100%.
Can I get someone to quote that for me? That
is a great quote.
New t-shirt idea?
Right, t-shirt. But seriously, I don't care how much you say you don't go on till. I don't care who it is. I don't care how nice of a person you are outside of this game. Even if you don't get upset or mad about what's being said about you, if you see it, like Chira said, you're going to think about it later. And even if you mute them after you see it, every time they stop moving, you're going to go, are they talking? Are they talking shit? I've been in games with someone, I've duoed with somebody, and I've muted somebody because they're talking shit, and he'll stop moving, and I'll be like, what did he say? Is he talking? What did he do? Like, it's something psychologically that you don't need to worry about. Like, who gives a damn? Let them play the game. You play your game, and just ignore them. It's not worth it. But you will waste more brain power on what they are not saying, and then you won't be able to focus on your warding, your timers, all that other stuff. There's so much to worry about this game. This game is it requires a lot of strategy. It requires a lot of thought. And if you're worrying about these other things that don't matter with people that you'll never see again, then you're going to lose a lot of games just by not focusing properly.
The only thing I will say is I was actually all for preemptive muting up until a couple weeks ago, and not because of anything that happened to me, because I had a conversation with a couple people, even asked on Twitter, has anyone ever been muted or had some kind of suspension or something from the game for not talking? And apparently you can be reported for never saying a word in the game, even if you're just muting people and you're pinging. Like,
yeah, but you can just say good job. Say good job all the time.
Muting doesn't mean that you can't type like that.
Well, no, they can't see it. If you mute them, they can't see you.
I would actually yes, they can. Yes, they 100% can. They 100%. Yes, I've tried it. I've tried it. They can hear you. They can hear everything you're saying. They can see everything you're saying. And I would argue that if you're going to mute people, then just be overly nice about it, because then it doesn't matter. Just say good job to everybody. If you see someone, if someone gets a kill and you have no idea what happened, tell them it was the most amazing play you've ever seen. Like, just be supportive of your team and be positive about it. And it's not going to hurt you. People can see what you're saying if you.
Well, I guess that goes back to Chira's buddy he was talking about a while ago, where he's just like he's the biggest douchebag outside the game, but his stuff comes across really positive. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. So
it's great.
Pretty much the same thing.
if you know him, it's really, really funny. So like it gets you in a good mood too. So if you can kind of sway a bad situation into a good one like that. I was in a game the other day where somebody was like talking mad shit to somebody else because somebody had fed and whatever. And we're like, hey man, just mute him. He's like, no, I can't do that. I'll get reported for refusing to communicate. It's like, that's not what you're getting reported for in that situation. Like it doesn't work like that. That's not what it is. So
Spork just brought up in chat that a lot of times there are games that people aren't bad in, and people call out jungle timers. Like I tend to call out summoner timers and things like that. But the thing is that, yes, while that does occur, I would challenge you to go ahead and tally up the number of times someone says something productive in chat compared to when someone says something counterproductive in chat.
Right.
And I have to be honest with you, as someone who came from bronze up to plat, although people are still very toxic in plat, I don't remember very many times in bronze or silver where people were calling out summoner timers. And now that you have dragon timer in your, you should be holding yourself accountable for having that timer. And you can see it when you hit tab. So there's not a whole lot of, in terms of objective timers that you don't have. You should know that. You can even hear if someone sneaks a dragon and you're near an enemy that gets it, you hear the audio of it. So you have the timer no matter what.
I do think it gets to a point where having that chat on is beneficial. Now, I'm not saying don't mute everybody if that helps you. If that helps you, definitely do it. Like if you just freak out that easily when as soon as somebody really says something and you don't type back, then mute everybody. Yeah. But I like to think, because I used to have that problem where there was a period of time where I muted everybody. But I like to think that there's some sort of element of practice to taking it, where I stopped at one point muting everybody and just kind of let everybody talk until somebody said something. Then I would mute them immediately, and that I felt like that kind of helps my mental fortitude. That helps me take some abuse, so that I don't go into it that easily. And I'm still open to seeing those jungle timers if somebody is very hopeful that I'm playing with that provides those. And as you climb the ladder, those people become more and more frequent. You start playing with people that are more helpful.
Yeah, you do.
Well,
you do,
again, as you were saying, I'm not disagreeing with you. If people are talking in your game, then I'll mute them immediately.
I think we need to move on from the topic of talking about muting and toxicity and whatnot, because we've actually harped on that for the last couple episodes pretty hard.
Let's go with what he said then.
Well, I was gonna move on to talk about what you should do to get ready for ranked, or what you should have.
Exactly. Let's address that. And I don't think there's a certain game limit you should have, or you should reach a certain threshold of how many games you've played before you go to ranked. If you have 350 games and you won 250 of them, your MMR is stacking pretty good. And either way, you got to dive in. It's a different beast when you go into ranked. As long as you're level 30 for a while, you understand how these champions work. If you feel comfortable filling all lanes with something in case you get the last pick and you don't get something desirable, quote unquote, then jump in ranked. As long as you're able to play any role comfortably without saying, I got stuck with this role, damn it, I'm going to lose LP for sure. That's when you need to work on those different roles and then go into ranked.
The other part of that too is you're going to get placed and you're going to be in the division that you're supposed to be in. It's not like if you get placed in bronze 4, you shouldn't necessarily be in bronze 4. Like if you only had 50 games played and you went into it, you're probably only at that level. Yes, if you had 500 wins played, you're more likely to be at a higher level just due to the fact you've played more games. But you could play those same amount of games in ranked and you should be able to bring yourself up to that same level that you would have been at normal win-wise. Like, just play the game.
I don't fear there's a specific answer to this.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, Punchka.
Yeah, I was basically just wanted to back what the club was saying, is that there's no real number of games you want to play here. I think it comes down to what your goals are for solo queue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
goals.
If you're really scared about losing, then yeah, you're gonna want to play more games and build up your repertoire of champions across all roles so that you're prepared no matter what role you get in ranked. But if you don't really care where you get placed right off the bat and you're willing to learn and to climb the ladder over time, then just jump right into it.
Yeah, you know what you need to do? Everybody out here, including the people in this chat, and we already have actually, for this season, Days, Punch, and myself have set Diamond for our goal. That is the end goal by the end of the season. We're all going to hit Diamond. I think DeClaude, have you set that same goal for yourself?
Yes. Yeah, okay. I'm not expecting it, but I'm setting the goal, and I have high hopes for the new MS medication I'm on. So if that helps and my micro can improve, I'm still working on my macro,
Okay.
which has a lot to go. So I do have things I can improve to get there. So I know I can achieve it.
Right. So I bring that up because I think everybody out there, when you step in the rank, you should have a goal, and it should be a realistic goal. You should say, after my placements, I want to place in Bronze 1. You place in Bronze 4. Okay, I've placed in Bronze 4, but why did that happen? What happened in the games? And don't blame anybody else when you're doing that. Just pick out what you did right or what you did wrong in those games, and then work toward that goal with other goals and with sub goals in mind. My goal now is Silver 5, but my sub goals are I want to CS more. I want to have 80 CS by 10 minutes.
You should have goals for your goals.
Yes. There should always be sub goals there, and that will actually, if you have sub goals for your goals, you'll find that you'll improve more dramatically. Because as we've said in the previous episodes, that to gain ranking from bronze up to higher, it really comes down to mechanics. Adding 10 CS every 10 minutes will probably win you one more game than it would have lost you. You know, because that would have been one more item or something. Like that's the smallest thing I could think of off the top of my head.
You're not going to climb from bronze to diamond in a day. So, like, just take it slow. Go at it in like, a logical, thought-out path.
I have a really, really strong belief with playing as much ranked as possible. And this is a huge difference from the mindset I had a couple years ago when I was in bronze, and I had really bad ranked anxiety, ladder anxiety. I wouldn't play ranked ever. I was terrified of it. I would literally get nervous and anxious before just queuing up. Like it freaked me out. And God forbid I got into a promo because it was terrible. And the good thing about playing a lot of ranked is, one, you condition yourself to playing it. It just becomes a win-loss. And yes, there's a number attached to it, but it's just a win and it's just a loss, and you know that you can get it back eventually. But the other thing is that people play ranked very differently than they play solo queue. Play normals. So there is a different level of competitiveness there. People are generally in roles that they're very comfortable with. They're generally playing champions they're very comfortable on. And you will experience a different level of competition, and you'll actually learn more from them than from playing against people who are fooling around in normals and things like that. And there's definitely a place for normals. If you're not diamond, then chances are you don't have the mechanics, or if you haven't played like several thousand games, you haven't played against the champion enough to just go in and be like, I think I'm going to play Syndra today. I've never played her before, but I've played against her so many times that I know what I'm doing. You're not going to have those mechanics. So if you're not diamond, then you don't want to take someone first time into ranked. So there's definitely a place for that in normals. Learning damage output is great in normals. You know, you want to push the limits. You want to go really ham. You want to see what you can get away with and what you can't. But as far as learning curves and getting really familiar and learning the intricacies of your champions in the role, I really strongly believe that ranked is a place to do that, and that you'll learn more out of it more quickly than you will if you just play normals.
I'm actually at the point now where I feel comfortable enough to bring my jungle into ranked. I've probably played a total of maybe 20 ranked games, jungle games. Some of them, granted, have been ranked 5s jungle games, but I have seen a dramatic improvement in my rotations and my map awareness and my macro from playing.
You're way more comfortable. That's definitely for sure. I mean, that's just because you've been playing a lot recently.
And with that said, I think I agree with Daze here, in that I'm finally to the point where I want to keep playing normals because I want to keep learning different champions, but I have an understanding enough of the jungle where I think I could take it into a platinum level game. Now, am I going to jungle like a platinum level player? Probably not, but am I going to hold my role well enough that my team will be satisfied with my jungle? 50-50, but that's all I could ask for when I go into a rank game.
And even still, now if you get put into a position where you have to jungle because all the other roles are taken, now you're not sweating bullets if you get into a shitty situation.
Yeah, that's how I was before. I said I would always go in there, cannot jungle, don't even put me in there.
I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I'm probably the only person on this show that's always been like, I'll just play everything everywhere. Like I screw around on a bunch of different champions doing a bunch of different things, and like I will say it has helped me out just because I'm not super uncomfortable in any lane except for like my mid's kind of wishy-washy, but that's just because I don't roam enough probably. But I like.
But sometimes it doesn't matter, though, because with the way this game is going now, everything is late game oriented anyway. So as long as you stay safe and you can take towers at the right times.
It's like about that best champions question. It's like, who the hell knows who the best champion is after last week, you know?
And you have to treat ranked as a learning experience. If you try to play a ton of ranked and all you care about is like, yes, you should have goals and you should know but part of those goals should be learning and getting better at whatever you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So like Adam taking jungle into ranked, he's not going to have as high of a win rate as he will in top because he has a lot of experience in top, and he's prepared for that mentally, and he knows that, okay, he might drop some LP doing it, but he's going to learn more in that process and eventually, like long run, it will benefit his gains and his LP and his ranking, as opposed to not learning that role. So it actually will help you in the long run. You just have to think of it in that positive manner and not, oh, well, crap, I keep losing as jungle, I should stop playing it. You just have to figure out why.
It also gives you perspective into the mentality that, like, oh, I am also playing a side lane and I'm familiar with jungle. I'm probably going to get ganked around this time because they're playing this specific champion and I've played that champion. So, like, and that's just not, like, that's not for just jungle in the top or mid or whatever. That's mid lane. Oh, hey, they're playing Akali in mid or Katarina in mid and they got an early kill. They're going to roam like crazy. So if I'm pushing like crazy top, probably going to get ganked by her.
So what's funny is the way I go about learning any role from mid to support, anything I've learned across this, I go based on rating, based on tier. Like I'm a plat level player, but I'm a bronze level jungler, right? I always joke about that, but there's some actually truth to stuff like that because
definitely.
Pro tip out here to any of you silver level players, you can start your Gromp, go right to race after doing your 3 camps, go to race, and then gank top lane because the top laner will not have warded by then at a silver level play. Because I have played I have played God knows how many silver level players in the last 2 weeks that I can get an easy level 3 kill on the top because nobody wards. Probably the bottom lane, you can get a level 2 kill doing the same thing too, but I haven't actually tried because it's just so easy to walk top and get a free kill.
Yeah, when I joined my ranked 5 team as a top laner, I don't know if I actually told them this, but at least I thought this was, yeah, I'm a plat level player, congrats, but I'm not a plat level top laner, right? I'm a gold level top laner, but it just worked out in the fact that our MMR was like low enough that we were playing people that were lower than me, and I could just like bully people with mechanics. But the finer points, if I play a plat level top laner, or if I used to play a plat level top laner, they would expose me.
God, I remember being silver scrub playing some diamond top laners in his first lane. I'd get my shit pushed all over me, and I'd still be that guy. Oh, they're not that good. These guys were I see now why they were so good. They understood what we talked about earlier. They understood minion control and wave management. They understood how to roam. You know, all stuff I wish I would have learned while I was
they didn't take their deaths personally, probably.
Well, I take
they didn't yell at Chira for not ganking.
Chira, gank me in the top some more.
They didn't call me the cancer of League of Legends for getting
the canceller.
Punch, I think you're I like how you are rating your roles by the appropriate rank that you think they are.
That was me, damn it, not Punch.
Yeah, thank you, Claude.
And Adam, sorry. But I like how you're doing that because that can play a huge decision in when you're going to ranked is how comfortable you feel at playing a certain role. If let's say you play one role, mid lane, and you feel that you are plat mid lane, but everything else you feel you're bronze, you probably should do some more normals in the other ones so that if you do get stuck with something else, you will gain LP. Otherwise, you're probably going to get bullied in lane, do terribly, and it's going to discourage you, and you're not going to want to play ranked. You're going to say, F rank, this sucks.
And
so
I think that's the mentality, though. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with practicing normals, but I think that there is something to be said for just having a mentality that if you lose, you've learned a lot more out of it than if you had won that game.
Now, right, and if you know, you're like, okay, I'm going into this expecting to suck, but I'm going to try my best. You know, then you won't be quite as discouraged because you're going to be like, okay, like the average Joes in dodgeball, aim low. That's the motto, you know.
Okay,
when
I
you're
don't
doing
know.
that.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I'm also a big proponent of if you're ever planning on doing ranked, you shouldn't be doing like blind pick normals either. You should be trying to emulate ranked as much as
absolutely.
possible. Me doing blind pick because I know a lot of people are like, oh well, I'm just trying to learn this champion or whatever. I want to do blind pick normals. Like, if you're trying to learn it in more of a solo queue based environment, you should be playing draft mode.
Okay, I'm on the fence of both of these. I think when you're first learning the champion, blind pick's not
Or
too
team
bad of
builder.
an idea.
That's fine.
Team builder's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like when I was first learning in jungle, I didn't care what I went against. I didn't because I wanted to learn to play when I was down. But the problem with playing blind pick is you could play into that Caitlyn top lane, and you're not going to play into the normal top.
You could play into a mirror match wherever. Like,
right. So if you want to just kind of get comfortable on what the champion's abilities and what they can do, a couple blind pick or team builder games, not a bad idea. Go play 10 of them. But
see, I'm not saying
in the
that though. I'm saying like if you're trying to practice champions to get right into ranked with, you should be doing it in draft pick.
Because you're going to meet those Hecarums and those Maokais and everybody else. So, who was that wrote in? That was James. So, James, hopefully we give you some information here. I know that was a long-winded way of saying, don't be afraid to play ranked. Please go try everything out in draft mode. And once you're comfortable enough, go play into ranked. And don't be afraid to play ranked because it's just there to get you.
Do things.
It's there to put you against competition that you should be playing against
Right.
because everybody's technically on the same level. So, yeah. Drinky, he writes in, my name is Drinky Crow. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. Anyway.
Caller.
Call.
That's what they say on the radio.
Podcast.
We're league line instead of love line. Get it?
It's good.
And I'm Adam, but Adam Carolla.
Well, our jokes are getting worse.
Please finish reading.
In bot lane, what kind of
world?
opportunities do you look for to transition out of a winning lane phase and into a winning game so that your opponents don't come back and win at 45 minutes in? Don't ask Punch about that, or do, because he's the only one who can win at 45 minutes in.
Shut up.
I've been playing for about a year and a half now, and I've really enjoyed ADC. And this next part is what cracks me up, because every one of our listeners seems to be dominating their lane. Currently, I'm Broads 3, and I win my lane hard. How many times do we hear that, guys? Like,
I don't know, but I wish I had those teammates in my game.
Like
5-1 with decent CS at 10 minutes, 50 to 60. It's at this point where things will break down. I'll help push mid. I will counter jungle, bot side of the map. I'll send Mario support to another lane to open him a free farm bot carefully. But the game will still drag on in the end. It's better team comp fight. The people can press R that'll win. What can I do? Well,
First of all,
I want to say if you're doing all those things and you're losing,
hold on.
you're not doing doing them
Something's-
Well,
correctly.
no, here's why. Because you're ahead, you've destroyed your lane, and you're free farming while everyone else is somewhere else.
You didn't
You
transition
should be
any of your power.
you should be using that power that you've achieved winning your lane hard to go influence objectives, either force dragon, knock down towers. But you don't want to just sit there farming bot the whole time while you're way ahead. Thinking, okay, I'm just going to get more ahead, but you're not using that spike that you got from kicking butt in the laning phase to help push the game closer to victory for you. So
When
you
I-
want to use that power.
Yeah. But when I hear an ADC say that they're winning the lane but they're losing late game, to me that says that their team fight positioning is very poor.
Yeah.
Or they're getting picked off, or they're getting jumped on during the team fights and they're dying. Because there is no reason that you shouldn't be able to carry that lane advantage into a late game or a mid game or a late
like
game
a
victory.
dragon fight or something like that.
Yeah, there's no marksman that's bad in the late game. There's no marksman that's like, oh, I dominate early and my damage sucks late. Their damage is the damage is all awesome late. That's the whole point of the role. You have the
Right.
highest damage late game, or well, for some certain exceptions. But I mean that's basically the point. If you survive during a team fight and you're doing damage the entire time because due to proper positioning, you should win that team fight.
Highest, safest damage, right?
Right.
Probably the best way. But if you're walking on a lane at 5-1, I agree with Punch here. I think I've seen a lot of 80 carries. I've seen a lot of silver 80 carries because I've been playing with a lot of those guys recently where they'll do great in the beginning of a team fight. You'll get a kill. You'll get that Jinx passive proc. You'll run in one step too far, and that step gets you a death, and then the team fight swings the opposite way. It's positioning is such a big piece of an 80 carry, and having confidence in your positioning
especially if if the majority of your team's gold is on you.
Right.
Like if you're ahead and the top and mid lane, your top and mid lane are behind, then the weight is pretty much on your shoulders. So if you get picked off, then well, it's game. You lost the team fight.
And if your positioning is bad, there is a way to like kind of band-aid fix that, and as you sort of build up your ability to position and picking champions like Corki or Tristana, who can kind of, they have an oh shit, I'm gonna not get obliterated if they show up in this spot, or I can get away in a short amount of time. Like, I'm not the best AD carry, but if I play Corki, I'm not like, if my positioning isn't amazing, I kind of get a pass every 24 seconds.
Right.
Days, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, there's a good chance that your positioning is wrong if you're dominating and then you lose team fights. But there's a lot more to that. There's a lot of decision making that's involved. So if you walk out of lane and you're 5-1, if you're not with your team when they fight, that could not be pressing your advantage if you're not sieging towers, especially if you're someone that's really long ranged. I use the rule of thumb where if you're really far ahead and they freeze the lane near their tower and near their second tower, then you go and you push mid or you take an objective because they can't respond to it or they lose minions. That's pretty cut and dry generally.
Objective
if they
go ahead.
Right. If they're going to try to push it back to like the middle again, then you just want to stay in lane and you just want to kill them, and you want to kill them over and over and over. And then eventually they'll freeze it and then you go take something else. But there's a lot of decision making involved in that. And the other thing that you want to make sure doesn't happen is a lot of games like just slowly devolve into an ARAM.
Right.
And you want to make sure, so if you got 100 CS in the first 12 minutes and then you're standing mid for the next 20 minutes with your team, then you're slowly falling behind that whole time because you're not getting your CS. You guys aren't, while you may think that you're getting an objective, there are times to split off from your team. So you need to make sure that you have a decision-making process of where you need to be in relation to what's going on with the game. And a lot of that is either watching higher level people play or having someone watch your replays and go over exactly what's falling apart for you. And then there's just asking yourself why you're doing what you're doing at any point in time. So it could very easily just be something as simple as, you're dying in team fights because you're positioning wrong, but it could be a million other things like not pressing an advantage or not being where you need to be at a certain time. So
the big second thing I wanted to harp on is, and you just hit the nail on the head, I'm going to reinforce that, is objective control as a marksman, because that's pretty much your primary secondary. Okay, so not that. It's your secondary role as a marksman is to help secure those objectives, since you have the highest single target DPS. So that means you're taking out turrets fastest, and Dragon and Baron, and your team needs you to take those objectives quickly. So that means you need to stay with your team. You need to be with your team when they go for an objective. You need to be with your team when they start a team fight. And your second point, Days, knowing when to not just stand in middle the entire time and play an ARAM. I think a lot of that comes down to experience, where you need to recognize when, okay, nothing's going on here. The Dragon's not up. We're not in position to take Baron. The enemy team is not going to go take Baron. The first middle tower is down and we're not pushing. There's a huge wave bot. I'm going to go take that.
On the flip side of that too, there's also the time to know, hey, I was 5-1 in lane. If I keep pushing this lane and the enemy AD carry is trying to catch up and is just sitting bot lane and I'm pushing all the way up to turret, why would you push all the way up to turret, risk getting ganked by the mid, the jungler, and the bottom lane 4v3 if your jungler shows up or something like that, where you could end up just swapping positions with, say, your top laner, taking down those mid turrets that might not already be down yet, and getting objectives for your team while the enemy AD carry is relatively safe by their turret, trying to catch up, and you're taking the map while they're doing that.
So, Drinky, or anybody else out there, if you feel that you are doing so well bottom lane, or you're doing so well in anyone, this goes out for anybody out there. If you're doing so well at any lane, join us in Battle Arena on Thursdays and show us that you're doing so well. Because if we have a replay and we can watch you do it, and we've started bringing in other players to help shoutcast Battle Arena, Darkners and their Crazy Phil is now in those. You've probably seen these names in the in-house games. Spork, Badger, Haberdashing, they're all doing a fantastic job between Battle Arena and Bronze Boot Camp. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Thursdays. Join in those games. go in 5-1, get ahead, get 60 to 70 CS by 10 minutes, and then we can tell you what you're doing wrong. Because I have a feeling it is a combination of not understanding how to take objectives properly, which we can only give you so much information how to do. It's a combination of not being positioned properly in a team fight or stepping one too far, not being confident in your abilities. To kind of go off on a little tangent here, I watched a player that Chira and I played with a number of weeks ago, a Corky, who missed almost a triple kill opportunity because he was not confident in his ability to auto attack while in a team fight. And he spent more time walking around the team fight than he did auto-attacking. And I think that is something that a lot of AD carries find themselves doing because they don't understand how to properly or walk. They don't understand attack animations. So, you get the idea. There's a lot here that goes along with that. So this is both a play Battle Arena. Battle Arena is going to help you get better because they're going to pick those things out for you. And pay attention to what you're doing. A question came on Twitter recently, and I think this is how we're going to end this, is how do I properly analyze my own replays if I don't know what I'm doing wrong? And there was something that Days had said here a moment ago, and hopefully she's about to say it as well, that I was going to pick up on, but I forgot what you said. But you said something very important here on how to, you didn't, I don't think you realized you said it, but you said how to analyze your own replay here. I think it's ask what you could have done better.
Right.
It's not even okay. So don't even start with what you could have done better, because a lot of people don't know. Like, if you knew what you could do better, you would just do it, right? Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is to ask yourself why you did whatever you did. Yeah. Like, what was your thought process? And if you ask yourself, why the hell am I mid lane when there's 20 minions top? Then it's a really easy answer. Okay, well, obviously I didn't see it or I didn't react to it. And then you know the next time. And there's a lot to be said about just asking yourself why in game and after. Like, there's several times that I've watched replays and I'm like, man, I can't believe we lost that game. I tried so hard. And then I'll go back and I'll watch the replay. I'll be like, wow, that was really stupid. I think I might have lost the game for us right there. And you don't see it when you're in game, but you do. Like, it does. All those little things add up. And there is also something to be said for having someone at a higher level watch a replay with you, because then they can point out things of what you should be looking for. And then the next time you watch your replay, you have an idea of what they were looking at, what you could do better, and things like that. But yeah, as far as analyzing your own replay, the number one thing I would do is ask yourself why, and then analyze very solid concepts, like how many CS do you have at 10 minutes? How many CS do you have at 20 minutes? How many CS do you have at 30 minutes? Those things should be something that you're improving on each game, regardless of the other situations that happened in game. You should be able to achieve certain numbers of CS and things like that. So that's what I would really focus on, is just asking yourself why.
Questioning why is our buddy Walden Green from mindgames.gg had an interview with Freeze from Copenhagen Wolves, and that was Freeze's like secret to getting super high elo, was just every time he would watch a ton of streams, and every time a streamer would do anything, he would always ask why they did it, and if he couldn't come up with the reason, he would go and figure it out.
Why, not how?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You ask why, and like why did they do that? That you need to know the reasoning behind every action that's made.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so analyzing your replays, Dave's advice, super solid. That's exactly what I want everybody to do. Something else you can walk into doing with your own replays is something that I do when I'm watching other people's replays, is I don't focus on myself and what I'm doing. I focus on everybody else based on the mini map, and I try to formulate an idea what everybody else is doing and what I could do to affect what they're doing. And that's like what Days had brought up. You said top lane has 20 minions up there. Why am I not up top lane? Well, you should have noticed that at what time based on the replay and the in-game time. And then you can try to think to yourself, okay, I noticed that at 19 minutes, but I should have noticed it at 18 minutes and 20 seconds. And I should have been reacting for those, 40 seconds walking up to the top lane. Those are things you can pick up on and then be more mindful of. And you won't actually, I don't think you'll be actively mindful of those scenarios in game, but to look at a replay, to look at the minimap and focus specifically only on the minimap, you will learn so much about this game by just watching the minimap.
The other thing with that,
that's what you'll learn.
Yeah, the other thing with that is knowing the objectives and when they're coming up and things like that, because then you can see where you are when those things are happening. I just did like a coaching session for someone. It was a bronze 4 top. He had really good mechanics and he got a lot of kills in lane. And he had that same mindset. I win lane. I don't understand what's going on. He had TP and didn't use it once. And he was the one that there were like 20 minions top. And then he was dancing around mid lane. So he missed a ton of CS in mid game and things like that. And just something as simple as, okay, I know Dragon's up. I have TP. I should have been pushing top, and then I could have teleported to my team. Like, things like that, if you just focus on what the objectives are and how you can personally respond to guarantee or to increase the chances that your team will get it, those will help you go really, really far. Because those are also team-oriented, and in supporting your team, you're going to make it a more positive experience for everybody else, and you're going to make it less likely that someone's going to get upset with you.
She just brought it back around. Look at this.
Full circle.
This is why I pay her the podcast money.
Yeah.
That podcast,
All
those
those
big
zeros.
podcast bucks.
All zeros. Including the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of zeros, tax time is up upon us. We just paid taxes, so thank you everybody else who helped out with the podcast and help us move forward. So
Yes, thank you.
the United States government is very happy with us at this point in time.
The wonderful state of Delaware.
Yeah, the wonderful state of Delaware is very, very happy with us at this point in time because we took care of it. So if you guys would like to help donate to the podcast, the podcast is very much an income-free podcast. We rely on the small number of sponsors that we have and you guys for support, but as I always say, we will continue to put out this podcast with or without your support, but we understand that you guys are out there and you want to hear more content from us. So if you enjoy the Four Words podcast, please go check out trinityforcepodcast.com/donate and give us a piece of your mind, whether it be in monetary fashion or a tweet fashion. You can do that all there at trinityforcepodcast.com/donate. So that's I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. Hopefully we went a little bit longer on this episode. We answered some more questions. Wednesday, we're going to come back with a how to make yourself better. We've been really focusing on that the last 2 months, is how to make yourself better, what you can do in a ranked scenario. This next article is a ranked fives article, if I'm correct, right?
Yep.
Indeed.
How to make your team better.
Yes.
Concentrate more on the macro than the micro.
Right. We're going to start moving in a little bit of ranked fives, and I think we're going to, this is, kind of an announcement that no one knows about because I've just been thinking about it the last 24 hours. I think we're trying to get Weldon back on here again after we start discussing that ranked five stuff, and because I want him to get back on and really talk about from a team atmosphere how to, from a psychological aspect, how to help you and your team.
I can't wait to dive into this because I want to know how to get a ranked team better because that's where that's where I need help.
Yeah, you and me both, right? But that's it, guys. That's Trinity Force Podcast. That is episode number 245. I hope you guys enjoy the crew and enjoy what we're bringing out to you. Please go check out the Four Words Podcast, the 4 words at trinityforcepodcast.com. You also find it on iTunes. And we will see you on Wednesday for episode number 246. So that's it, guys.
All right, bye, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.